Hello. Hello. Skype's crashed. Hello. I hear no background noise, but can I hear you? I can see you now. I can see you, but I can't hear you. No, I can't hear anything on there. I heard a brief bit of noise and then it disappeared. And I got Jason either. Where's everybody gone? Which was seen before. Right. The streaming machine's back on now.
All right, trying it again.
Richard's I think we've got everybody here, have we?
All right, yeah, because I just had to switch it wasn't using my podcasting mic. So I had to switch off the webcam and get connected that way. But yes, I've got you.
Jason, are you there?
Jason.
We had Jason.
I see Jason twice. Oh, there goes one.
Everybody still there?
I'm still here.
Still here.
Right, we're all on. Let's do this. We're all on.
Hit record.
I've already recorded.
All right, good.
Right, let me send this link out and then we're done. In fact, I might as well send your link out. Well, thanks for coming on, Richard. And Richard, meet Jason. I know you missed each other last time.
Yep. What's up, Jason?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, hi, Richard. It's good to talk. I think we've been chatting on Twitter for about 5 years or so, I think now.
At least, yeah. I've been on Twitter for 8, so yeah, it's been a long time.
It certainly has. Yeah, it's good to finally catch up. And I missed the last one, which I was really, really disappointed
about.
That's
right. That's right. That's right.
Right, I'm just going to send this link out and then we'll get to go. Skype, the Twitter app I'm moaning about now. There we go. Tab if you hit tab when it brings up someone's name, it just takes you out of the box. Doesn't select it.
What Twitter client?
Just a normal Twitter client.
Oh, the official.
Yeah. Don't really use it very often, but it seems to like cutting and pasting links better. Right. Okay. Housekeeping done. Jason, good evening.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Okay, good. Thanks. And we've no Gary tonight, but we have got a special guest with us.
Hi, Richard.
Oh, hello. Was I supposed to say something?
I was Richard, good evening. Richard Hay from Windows Observer, Super Site for Windows, and various other places.
Yep. Good to be with you guys again. It's been a while.
Yeah, you've been on the show before, but I think, Jason, you missed that one, and you were really sick about it. So
yeah, I did. Yeah, I was really disappointed. But yeah, I've been following Richard on Twitter for a long time. And obviously, it must be quite a challenge taking over the baton of running the Super Site for Windows after Paul Thurrott moved on.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. And, I've had a lot of people approach me about that and remark that I was Paul's replacement. But, I certainly don't run the site. I'm a contributor. They give me a title of senior editor, but I write content. That's what I do day in, day out, is create content. So, and I have fun doing that. I'm glad to I got an editor there, Lisa Schmeiser, who takes care of me. And I'm actually now contributing to 3 different Penton technology sites. Penton owns that whole conglomeration of sites, but including SuperSite, Windows IT Pro, and Developer Pro. So I'm doing content for all 3 of those channels.
So that must give you keep you pretty busy.
Yeah, I do I do at least 15 articles a week, and then sometimes more depending on what's going on in the Windows world.
And there is plenty going on in the Windows world at the moment.
Oh man, are you kidding me?
So, well, we've got a lot of stories that we can talk about. I mean, there's Batterygate for Surface, which we can do an update, and Jason's been following along a lot with this. We can talk about the new build or the update to the build for Windows Insider as we go, and we'll just have a general chat about Windows 10 anniversary update, which will be the release next week. So let's just start.
Right, yeah.
We'll get on the positive stuff with all the good stuff that's coming out with the anniversary update, but we'll get the negative side out of the way then with battery update, Batterygate as it's now being called.
Yep.
Now I know you've both been on this, but Jason, you brought this to my attention lately. So, what's the current situation? And then we'll see Richard what information you've got.
So, I mean, the current situation, I mean, particularly in terms of my Surface Pro 3, I've been trying various things and I've learned the hard way that actually discharging the battery and recharging it is definitely not the thing to do. I've lost quite a bit of capacity trying to troubleshoot it, trying different things, deleting things from device manager, reinstalling. Obviously, I think it was last Thursday after we recorded, there was a kind of an expected Surface Pro 3 firmware, which I think initially we all kind of gasped and thought maybe this is the fix coming down the pipe, because I think the most frustrating thing, and this has been a continual thing really with the Surface brand, that whenever there is a major hardware issue, the Surface team just seem to disappear. It's very difficult to get any kind of comment out of them. I mean, obviously there were the huge issues with the Surface Pro 4 and the Surface Book with the firmware and sleep issues and kind of like the hot bag incidents, which were subsequently fixed with firmware, but it took a long time for them to kind of really come out and publicly admit that. We obviously had the firmware issues with Surface Pro 2 over Christmas, which I think was Christmas 2015, where they released a firmware update just before Christmas that actually prevented them from charging. And then they had planned that basically, I think they did say something to that, but basically that it would be after Christmas before they fixed it. Now, I know there was quite a bit of uproar at the time, and eventually they did actually fix it a lot quicker. But certainly in terms of this, there's just been no real valid response, and it's been quite frustrating. I mean, I tip my hat to Rod Trent and yourself, Ian, and I know Tom Moran on The Verge has picked this up as well, so it has started to pick up some good media coverage. But it's just frustrating that Microsoft does seem to make one comment, which is contact support, but most people are finding this $99 paywall stopping them from actually providing that information. And I think more frustrating, there are some people that have actually paid out the $450 for a replacement battery, and now the replacement or the refurbished device is also failing. So it's a really disturbing situation. I mean, I'm keeping relatively low key in terms of I'm just trying to drive kind of getting as many people to cover the incident as possible, but I'm lucky I can get mine replaced under warranty anytime I want. What I'm reluctant to do that at the moment is it's pointless getting it replaced if the replacement is just going to follow the same trend.
Yeah. So Richard, what have you seen of the issue?
Well, I've been reading what Rod's been writing, because Rod's been covering this on SuperSite. And, the biggest disconnect, I think, in this whole situation, and we've seen this before with Microsoft, and they are challenged when it comes to messaging at times. And then there's the disconnect between what support, which is the front-facing folks. Those are the folks that are sitting wherever in the world they're sitting at, in front of a computer with their scripts, going through the process when somebody calls in for an issue and going through all the troubleshooting steps. And this is hitting Surface Pro 3s, right? So
yeah,
those devices it's been when were they released? That was the fall of 2014, I think. So we're at that 12 to 8, we're in that 18-month window for them right now. So you've got devices that have not been on Microsoft's front burner for some time. You got people who are outside of that 12-month warranty period if they did not pick up an extended warranty. And unfortunately, the way the system works, if you contact support and you're out of warranty, it's a $99 charge to talk. That's just the reality of what's going on. And then add to that the cost. They're quoting, I forget what the number is, but they're just quoting an unreal number to replace and fix this issue. So something like $450 or something to that nature. Maybe it's a total of $450. But so it's a tough situation from both sides. One, the quality of the materials, these Simplo batteries that were in some of the Surface Pro 3s were not obviously up to the amount of cycles they were going to get from people. Because I think this has even hit people who use them primarily as a dock device. So they're not charging and uncharging and stuff like that. And there is no facility within the Surface Pro firmware that I'm aware of that reconditions batteries. Some devices try that, but I personally have never had much luck with it. So you've got people who contact support out of warranty, that's $100. You got people who are being quoted this price. Now, what's disconnected, and Rod pointed this out in one of his story, was that something that Panos Panay and the Surface team said in a Reddit a few years or right around Surface Pro 3 coming out, and somebody had asked a question about support batteries or something to that nature, and he said it would cost no more than $200 device. Well, unfortunately, I'm not sure that, I mean, he's in charge of the development process, but I don't know that Panos is ultimately the guy who determines those kind of things. So you've got a comment made in a Reddit, which in this day and age, a lot of people pick up on tweets. They pick up on, it's why Microsoft doesn't come out and tell us insiders when they're going to release a build, because we'll crucify them for it. We'll put them up against the wall, and it's like a firing squad because they didn't hit what they said that they would hit. So I think there's a disconnect there. They say they've got it on. I go into the answers forum, and we've had some Microsoft folks come in. I know Rod had a reply from Microsoft officially, and that dialogue continued for him and through to Microsoft, and they're looking into it. But the problem is we still have the disconnect. So you still have people contacting support. You still have people, I think maybe the word's out there enough now that hopefully most people who follow the tech websites know about this. But unfortunately, you've got some folks out there who bought Surface Pro 3s that don't know. And so they're going to hit this wall of charging, inability to keep their devices charged for an hour, and they're going to contact support and get hit with the same thing.
Now, I think, Jason, I think you were just about to say, well, we've seen a couple of Surface Pro 4 owners mention this as well now.
Yeah, so there's one person who posted in the very long running thread, which I think is up to about 25 pages now. Again, without comment from Microsoft, this is kind of dating back to May. But yeah, so Lee D. Jones has also on Twitter posted his battery, and obviously you've got your SP4 in, which is a DYN battery. But interestingly, Lee's got what's typed as an SMP, which could be Simplo. And his design capacity on his Surface Pro 4 was 38,000. It's now at 35 with a cycle count of 85. So that could indicate that actually this spreads far wider than maybe is impacting some Surface Pro 4 device as well. Now, it's possible this could just be a firmware issue. I've tried recharging mine sitting on kind of like the UEFI BIOS screen, so holding down the power button and holding the volume up and holding down the power button until the Surface logo appears. Then you let go of the power button, and that takes you into the BIOS settings. And I left it charging on that, but that still has. In fact, I've lost capacity doing that. And the other thing I see, so if I click on my battery meter on my Windows 10 Anniversary Edition taskbar, I've got 96%, and it says it's not charging. So it's either something that's preventing these batteries to charge to full capacity, and then its capacity is then being adjusted, whereas actually there isn't a physical hardware issue, or there is a hardware issue. Now, whether or not when this is recognized by Microsoft, Surface Pro 3s are no longer in production, will these just be replaced by other stock? That stock's going to have to be refurbed in terms of refitted with batteries that don't have this issue, or will they just replace them with Surface Pro 4s? It's really difficult. It's just so frustrating.
I don't see him doing that. I don't see him giving people Surface Pro 4s to replace the Surface Pro 3.
No.
Now, what could happen is, that they simply, because what stock do they have of Surface Pro 3s? I mean, are they even on the shelf anymore?
Well,
I'm not sure if they are.
I remember Chris Walshy, actually, he was chatting to me on Twitter. This is going back, must be almost 4 or 5 months now. But he was saying that he had noticed a problem with his Surface Pro 3, whereby if you're playing an intense game, so I'm talking about a high graphic intense game,
right?
The actual Surface Pro 3 battery couldn't charge quicker
while
than you
you're
were
doing the game. Yeah, it's kind of like the same issue we were seeing with the phones at one point when they were testing the anniversary update. There was one batch of updates that was so bad that it was burning through battery faster than you could charge it.
Yeah,
so that kind of indicates maybe a firmware issue, right? That kind of lends itself to the possibility that's a firmware or OS based issue.
Yeah, I mean, if you look through the feedback hub, if you search for Surface Pro 3 battery, there are a lot of people reporting, as soon as I undock this thing, it switches off. So I think there's an awful lot of reports where people aren't appreciating actually what the underlying issue is. They just see it as, I'm in the insider preview program, my battery life has decreased. Right. It must be a problem with the beta build. We've all been there. So I think there's actually more cases being reported than is being linked back. So I've been trying to go through those and just pasting links to the forums saying, look, I think, you you really need to check this out, because I suspect it's not a build related issue. But I mean, I certainly hope, I mean, it would be great if it is firmware. I really don't want to swap my Surface Pro 3 device. I've got a ton of SQL clusters configured in Hyper-V. All those OS installs would be invalidated, would have to be reactivated, and for me it would be a great it would be really awkward to have to go through and redo all that. So I really don't want my device swapping. So if it can be fixed with a firmware update, then I'm all for that.
Yeah, and there's a couple of one. I think there's two people on that long thread on Microsoft forum saying somehow they managed to get their capacity up by doing certain things and jumping through certain hoops and disabling drivers and then re-enabling drivers. And I don't know if that's a coincidence or that does point to the fact that it could be somehow driver related, and the fact that it's the driver is not allowing the battery to be charged. But without an official response,
and that'd be hard to measure. That'd be hard to measure without putting that stuff in a controlled environment and evaluating, because too many times we can sense. I mean, we might see small gains, but you shouldn't certainly be losing the amount of capacity that the people's reports are starting to say that they've lost with these Simplo batteries. Not at this point. I don't think 18 months is that long.
Now, and my Surface Pro 3 with the LG batteries had as many power cycles as many of the forum posts, and I haven't lost any capacity at all. So
I did read somebody on Twitter did go to a store for an exchange, and said that when he explained everything, they were going to offer him a swap. Right? He wanted to be able to check the battery configuration report of that swap device, and it turns out it would have been a Simplo battery too. Yeah, so he refused to take the trade-in. And that's the part he doesn't want to engage in the exchange online, because he doesn't know what he gets. So Brad Sams gave a great piece of advice last Friday on his Sam's Report podcast, and he said if you bought the extended warranty for the Surface Pro 3, or you're still in your 12-month warranty, and you have the Simplo battery, go in and ask to exchange. Not because of the battery, but something else might be wrong with the device. Or if you bought the extended warranty and you've got the Simplo battery, you certainly want to be looking at, and factually, if something won't hold a charge, or you can show somebody a battery configuration report right on the device that shows it lost, 40% of its capacity, that should be enough to prompt them to do a device swap too. So, but I definitely would want to check and make sure I wasn't getting another Simplo.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, it's the worst example of these. There are people in the forum thread, basically they can't undock their Surface Pro 3. It has to remain powered at all times. It's got so low. So I do hope, hopefully, Microsoft will. I don't doubt for a moment that they won't do the right thing. It's just frustrating, this wall of silence.
It's the way it looks, and it's the way it looks, and it's the whole disconnect, because support in the store is a whole different entity to the guys that build these devices. So, and then you got the Answer support forum in the middle there. So nowhere along this chain of things, from what Panos Panay said, whatever that Reddit was, to what support forums are getting in and out of it, to what the support folks on the front lines for the store deal with through the website or the phone, none of that's connected. And that's kind of part of the miss here, is that there is no way to connect all those dots, or at least, somebody should be feeding the word to the support folks on the front line and saying, look, we need to stop sending people, X. If the issue, we need to look further into it if it's a battery issue. And if, maybe let them connect to support at no cost. And if you determine that it is a battery issue, then you earmark it, or you do something to flag them, so that when this issue is ultimately resolved, they get a notice that says, okay, we have figured this out. This is the fix, or this is how we're going to deal with the situation. Don't make them go through paying $100 for this known issue, especially since it's hardware, and save them the headache of ultimately maybe ended up paying $400 because somebody sitting in front of a script doesn't know that there's an issue going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, listening to Donna Sarko on Windows Weekly the other week, she gave a great insight into how the Xbox support team use Twitter as a direct support. They've almost built a ticketing system around Twitter, and they've got a room full of people. And you would just think, with the cost of these Surface devices, I hope that team can learn something from Xbox, because that would be a great way for consolidating all these different reports and starting to piece together a trend if they had that sort of system. But I mean, I do get a good response from the Surface team. Sorry, Richard.
Sorry, the Xbox team, it really set a new standard a couple years ago when they moved to social media type of support, and I've used it a couple times. And it's just like UPS. They'll get you connected. You'll complain on Twitter. They'll pick it up. They'll say DM us. Then they'll ask you to email in some info, and you get a response within a very short period of time. So, that is at least one element of Microsoft, the Xbox team, who has figured out a great way to do support. They had some problems early on because Twitter didn't understand it, because they had to have more than one account in order to, be able to follow and connect and do all the things that you have to do for that. But it's a great way to kind of do those initial, because where are people going to go when they're having issues? They go to Twitter. They go somewhere they can voice it, and whether it be Twitter or Facebook. And so the more companies, not just Microsoft, but I just read something about customer service on Twitter the other day, and a lot of companies are missing the mark. And if I holler out at your Twitter handle on a Saturday or a Sunday or Monday morning or Monday night, and it takes you 3 days to get back to me, you're not getting it. Whereas with the Xbox team, man, you get a response very quickly because they got a lot of folks watching, and you get into the system that way. It wouldn't hurt for Microsoft Store to maybe look at a similar type of connection to help get people in the channel, and then you deal with it in the channel. Just because even with Xbox, when stuff's out of warranty, guess what? People have to pay to get that support. So it's not that's not the abnormal part of this. The abnormal part is the fact that there's a disconnect between a known issue and the frontline support folks not knowing about it, to be able to keep people from spending money they don't need to right now.
And I think it's just people need to, I think that's the biggest issue, isn't it? To stop people spending the $450
exactly.
when there's a potential solution down the line that'll for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
and if you get everybody, if you get these folks flagged and you capture their names and contact, then you can go back to them once the solution is solved and say, okay, we figured this out. Here's the solution if you want to go through it. Or we decided to replace all those at no cost. Send them in, we'll fix them and send them back, or whatever. Hey guys, I'm just watching Twitter go by, and Twitter is down over 10% after market because of their revenue miss and user miss.
Wow.
They're getting hammered.
It just shows you that when you watch
tough one.
These kind of you see this with the earning reports, don't you?
That's what today is. It's earning report for them and Apple today.
I know Netflix is struggling as well with their recent hike in subscriptions. Exactly. So it's tough trying to track new users.
I haven't looked this afternoon. But Microsoft was over $57 this morning, earlier today.
Yeah, Microsoft stock's doing well.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And I think that's partly down to their improved focus over the last couple of years, isn't it? And part of that
they need an anniversary to celebrate.
Well, part of the reason why they're doing better is this Windows as a service.
Yeah, and the cloud. I mean, cloud is a big piece of where they've gone now, and that's the interesting shift in Microsoft is their cloud-based services, and that cloud-based service, which now Outlook 365 or Office 365 just turned 5 years old a couple of weeks ago. From when that product was first launched. And that's where they really cut their teeth in this as a service concept, because they were updating Office 365 every month, pushing out features, pushing out fixes, pushing out security, pushing out all kinds of stuff to the platform. And then you saw Azure take on that same kind of role. And as Azure has grown, everything around Microsoft practically has become a service. Even at Worldwide Partner Conference a couple of weeks ago, it was Surface as a service. Surface as a service, so and this Windows as a service thing, I think at this 1 year mark, if we're going to start talking about the Windows 10 anniversary update that comes out next week, I think it's kind of, initially people kind of, and I think Jason might have been one of those that kind of scoffed at the idea of Windows as a service, but it is really shown in a lot of ways. And I was quite impressed with yesterday at 9 a.m. was when the embargo lifted. It's the funniest embargo I've ever been under, because I've been testing Windows 10 Anniversary Edition for 8 months. And I flew up to New York last Wednesday to meet with Microsoft and to get the final build of the Anniversary Update installed on my Surface Book. And I got a briefing, and they mainly briefed us on the 3 key areas: security, inking, and Cortana, which is their big focus for this update. And we were then told this is everything we've discussed today, and they gave us a bunch of stats, and that's all under embargo until Monday morning. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been writing about this stuff for 8 months. So suddenly I'm under embargo about features that are out there in the wild anyway. And in fact, they demoed us on 14393, which was what we now know is the final build of the Windows 10 Anniversary Update, plus the cumulatives that have been released for it. So, they've really shown over the course of this year that, this constant push to service and update and keep things running smoothly can have a positive effect. I was blown away by I've only seen one person put out a real negative review of the Anniversary Update, but that was right in his wheelhouse. That was right in his style. And so he was consistent, at least. And this is not the guy who's been doing the FUD stuff from Forbes. But other than that, most of the people I've read about their reviews or things like fairly positive about the state of Windows 10 as the Anniversary Update is coming out. And the stability, and I know it has issues. I always get people hitting me on Twitter and saying, oh, Rich, it's full of bugs. Yeah, I know it's got bugs and I know it's got issues, but the beauty of this whole concept of Windows as a service is that Microsoft has the ability to prioritize and triage those things and push them out into either future updates and I'm not talking about features here, I'm mainly talking about the fixes and the little tweaks that need to be done. Look, just compare. I need to go back and install 10240 from last July, and I need to run it next to 14393, because I think you'll find that there's been a lot of fit and finish done that we kind of thought was coming in November, and we've seen a lot of it with this update, and we've gotten a handful of feature stuff. But it's certainly not the transformative update that we saw from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10 last July, but it's a solid update, I think. And in fact, as soon as I found out that 14393 was the final build, I came home and installed it on all my systems.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you it is a significant shift. I've got a VM which is Threshold 2 that I keep reverting back to each time there's a new insider build, and every time I boot that up, it takes me a good few moments just looking around, thinking, "Where's Action Center?" Right? It really is. I mean, especially with, I've switched now to using the full screen start experience, because that's what I used to love about Windows 8.
On your desktop?
Yeah, even on my desktop,
wow.
I much prefer. In fact, one of the settings I've asked to come back is to default revert back to start upon closing applications.
Oh, right. I see. Like the old Windows 8 8.1 style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but certainly, I mean, I have start on full screen now, even in non-tablet mode. That's just I really love using it.
That's
like
interesting
that.
Because I have gone the total opposite direction. I have removed all the live tiles from my start menu. I just have the single little column that pops up, and I'm a taskbar guy, so my taskbar is where all my shortcuts are. And gained a little bit with the Anniversary Update, and we now have badges that will show the number of new messages or new alerts or content on the different apps you're on. I do love the fact the Action Center has come a long way. With the actionable notifications, with the ability to now see stuff from your phone, which I love, because when I'm at work in the day, I'm at my computer, my desktop computer, but my phone sits off to the side, and I don't look at it much during the course of the day. And now if I get today, for instance, I got a text message from my wife while she was out doing her running around, and they told me not to do something that I was planning to do 30 minutes later, and it popped up on my desktop. So I love that. And so I'm happy with it. I think they've done a lot to kind of improve it over the course of this year. I'm really keen, and I know this is I've been giving people a hard time about jumping out ahead of things, but I'm really keen to see what's coming in Redstone 2. What are they going to add to make that a great target, for the next update?
I think what they've managed to do as well with this release is, like you said, they've added a lot of features, polish and smooth the edges and smooth the experience. but without making it jarring that you're going to have to potentially retrain someone if you're in a business mode. So, like I've got on my main machine I use at work, I haven't got the anniversary update installed on my Surface Pro 3, which I have got it installed, and I much prefer the experience on the Surface Pro 3, even though there are minor changes. But I also know that if I have this installed in a corporate environment and I put the anniversary update on, I'm not going to have to go and retrain somebody as you would do, perhaps going,
like you had to do off of 8.1 to 10 or from 7 to 8.1.
So there's a fine line that they do have to balance between, lots of new functionality that we want, but without making it too much training involved.
And I did a post this morning, an article this morning for IT Pro, where I pulled out the enterprise related features that are coming in the anniversary update. And there's really two big ones. One's Windows Information Protection, and the other is the Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. So those, so for enterprises, they're very smart in not moving the needle too far for them, because what was the number Yusuf Mehta said 2 weeks ago at the Worldwide Partner Conference? 96% of their partners are trialing Windows, whatever trialing means. It might mean one machine in the server room, or a machine on the IT guy's desk. But they're really, this is where we're headed now. This is where the movement's got to come, because we're at the end of the free upgrade, right? This Friday, free upgrades history. That is not coming back. And now's the time for them to see more and more movement of the enterprises, of corporations and big companies make the move to Windows 10. And I think at this 1 year mark, it's not a service pack. They don't want us calling it a service pack, and I get that, and I understand, and I agree with that. But for a lot of IT pros and enterprise level type folks, I think they're going to look at the 1 year mark and be able to finally say, well, you know what? It's remained fairly stable. It hasn't changed a whole lot in the last year. We can treat these two major updates as quote unquote mini Surface packs, and it's a stable and reliable system. And that might encourage more of the enterprise guys to start to make the move, because this 350 million or whatever it is now, that million was into June. So you're now talking about, we've got almost an entire month again on top of that, and my estimate was they were adding about 700,000 a month to the rolls between the last two updates. So with the free update expiring, I'm seeing a lot of people upgrade this week. So I think we'll see a big bump, and they might use that. Satya Nadella last week, Microsoft had their big MGX conference here in Orlando, Florida, and he said, we're going to start reporting those numbers monthly. No more big gaps between how many active users we have. I think it was Bloomberg. Oh, no, wait a minute. He said this during the earnings call the night before, not at MGX. So he said during the earnings call, we're going to report those as active users, just like everybody. That's kind of the industry standard to report users of your service, device, or whatever. And they're going to start reporting those monthly now. So we're going to be able to really see closely how well things are progressing when the free update ends, as far as Windows 10 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that I think anyone moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10 would have a far smoother transition than those coming from Windows 8, because so much of those features kind of disappeared that we'd gotten used to. But I think for me, the most interesting part about being an insider is that we saw this with the original Windows 10 release, then the 15.11 release, and now with the what was it, the 16.07. That as an insider getting regular builds, it's each time they've really brought the quality bar up so quickly.
I agree.
We've and that's been really, really impressive. And I think also what's really impressive with this Redstone 1 release is that this is the first time that the build numbers have been in lockstep in terms of PC, mobile, and
mobile,
Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, we missed some of that earlier this year. Earlier this year, when Gabe was still leading the program, there were a couple of spots where that couldn't happen. But I think I apparently kept better track than Microsoft did of the builds, because in their numbers that they gave us last week, they said 25 PC builds and 16 mobile builds were released to test Windows Anniversary Update. My numbers say that there was 27 PC builds since last December and 23 mobile. And so I don't know where we differ on that, but I'm not counting where a build drops to slow or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm just flat out counting it was released to the platform. So if it was a full build release, I counted it. And if it was not a full build release or a move to slow, I just updated the listing I had. So I counted 50 builds released between mobile and desktop, almost even, 27 and 23. That's pretty close. But do you guys, like I do, feel a little bit of a difference in the quality level on the mobile side than you do on the desktop side?
I mean, I've only got my 930, and apart from some Bluetooth issues which I had during the late part of the preview program, I have to say mine's been pretty stable.
Okay.
I've not really got any major complaints at all. Obviously, I had that massive battery issue with the 930.
Yeah, I remember that
were
one
dropping
too.
like flies. But
I had that on the 950.
Yeah, and interestingly, in laughed at me because that was the first time I actually jumped into the preview program.
That was a great build.
Of course, you jumped in on that build. The build that just tanked every battery out there.
We recorded a podcast on the Tuesday, and I said, right, the next build that comes out, I feel like this is the one I'm going to jump to. And I woke up in the morning, there was the build. I didn't stop to read any release notes. Said, no, I'm going on to it, and spent the day with a mobile phone that I could have fried an egg on.
You know what's been interesting in the shift? The person I wrote this last week when I did my 1 year kind of review of Windows 10 and the kind of the year. It was really my Windows as a Service article. But I talked about the change in leadership with the Insider program and compared some numbers. And both Donna and Gabe released almost the same amount of builds, but Gabe did it in 4 months. Donna did it in 6 weeks. And I think that's made a massive. And I'm not saying Gabe has tanked on leading this program because he kind of built it from the ground up. He was the first guy, back in late 2014 when it started. And I was quite amazed as I went back to do that article and I was counting the number of builds. And my means of counting the number of builds was going back to the Blogging Windows site and looking for all the build announcements. And I forget the exact number, but I think it was like 14 builds from October of 2014 until the release of Windows 10 last July. So that's about a 8-month period, 7, 8, 9-month period. Not a lot of builds when you think about today. Just a little bit more than one build a month. And then you had between July of last year and the November update, which came out on the 15th of November, you had fewer builds, but it was also a shorter period of time. I want to say it was like 8 builds. And then we have 50. And I didn't count mobile on those two because mobile was not being developed at the same pace that desktop was. I mean, mobile wasn't officially released to Windows 10 until March of this year. So, when I compare the number of builds, which is 27 for the anniversary update, compared to 14 for the original update release, and then about 8 for the November update, it doesn't surprise me that Windows 10 is showing so much improvement because of the amount of data they've been able to get from all those builds, getting out on all those devices and seeing what's going on, even with the bad ones.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think one big part of that is these bug bashes that they've been holding as part of the Insider program. I think that's really helped, and also you can clearly see that the whole flighting process has been improving, and I think that's partly why they've been able to kind of keep pumping out these builds. I know Gabe at the start of the year said that they were going to lower the quality bar for the fast ring, and I think that was certainly felt early on in the preview builds, but as I say, that's quickly come on. But I think also obviously Donna carries the magic hustle, so I think that helps.
I'd say what else is I've noticed a difference as well between on the phone builds, quite a few times all the way back from the very first previews on the phone. There would be every 2 or 3 updates. I felt the need to reset my phone, the test phone, back to to do a clean start because you could feel sort of it building up and things wouldn't work and apps wouldn't work and things like that after the update, and then you do a clean refresh and everything would be fine again. But I really haven't felt that for a long time on testing out these builds. For maybe, I think the last time I reset mine was in April, and I've had all the builds on since then on my 950 XL. And I think that's been a difference as well. So not just the actual quality of once things have installed, but the actual install process seems better. Everything just seems to be gelling better.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't even remember the last time I reset my phone because of that. I may have reset it for other reasons, but I don't even remember the last time I felt like I needed to reset after a build update. So I agree. They have, whatever work has gone into that system They have certainly streamlined it now, and they have it performing at a level where, what was it, before 393 came out, 393 was, I think, the 5th build in about 8 or 9 days that we had seen. And that to me just amazes me, because I can remember when we used to complain that we weren't getting one a month.
Yeah,
and there we
right.
have 5 in a period of 8 or 9 days. So, and I don't expect this to change. I fully expect that. I'm trying to remember, we got the November update in mid-November. So 15 November, I think, was the official release date for that. And then we had our first build for the Redstone 1 branch on December 14th, right before Microsoft takes their big holiday period. And then we got another update in early January, and then it just continued from there. But I don't expect there to be a huge gap between next Tuesday's rollout of the Redstone 1 build or anniversary update before we start seeing Redstone 2 builds. Now, those new ones won't be a whole lot different, because they're just establishing the new branch and getting it going. But I fully expect this next period of time between whenever Redstone 2 is going to come out in 2017, which everybody suspects it's going to be in the spring, April timeframe when they announce the new hardware. I think it's going to be a mad pace. I really do, based on what we've seen. If she can sustain it, I wonder how much. I think I asked Donna how much she sleeps a day, and she said 4 hours.
Yeah,
and she lives off of that. And good for her, and great for us on this end, because we're getting a lot of stuff. We're seeing a lot of stuff. There's some folks out there not happy because they see issues on their devices that are affecting them, but they aren't. When you collect 75 million pieces of feedback on an OS, every one of those are not going to get addressed, especially in the niche stuff. Now, if it, and you have to prioritize, you have to decide what you're going to tackle. So nothing's changed there. You still have to decide what's going to be worked on and what's not going to be worked on, what's going to get pushed to a back burner. So, and a lot of people don't see that from the outside looking in unless they've been involved in the environment. So I think that's another part of the challenge, is that I think they have to do more, and they've done a lot. Don't get me wrong, guys. The Feedback Hub is a great resource now. You can see when they've got it. You can see comments. You can comment on stuff. But I know that there's a threshold. I can't say what that threshold is because it was in a briefing at the MVP Summit last year. But I encourage people to get as many of their friends to upvote issues that they find, because once it hits that threshold, and it's not a crazy high threshold, it's going to get some attention. But every piece of feedback gets looked at. I mean, that's one thing she did confirm a few weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always said that the biggest strength of Windows is the diversity of hardware, and the biggest weakness of Windows is the diversity of hardware. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I was going to say as well, one of the things about since the 383 has been out there, I kind of feel relaxed now that I haven't got to be prepared to do blog posts and videos about new builds. So it's quite nice to. It feels like a bit of a holiday.
Well, on SuperSite, we are choosing to kind of refresh our coverage. So last Thursday and Friday, we started with my 1-year review, and the next day I wrote about the whole. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But, so we're doing a whole 2-week kind of shot through the OS. So we're kind of refreshing all of our looks at stuff and talking about things now that we know they're all final. But you're right. We've been on pretty much the final set of features for at least a month now. I'm trying to remember what the last new feature was. And I'm not even sure. I remember the last one that was removed, and that was messaging.
I think inking was the last big feature that really got added. But I was just going to say, and you should be relieved that you're not doing Xbox One dashboard preview videos.
Yeah, no, and I thought at one point that I wanted to do that. I thought at one point I might want to build a tracker for it just to have the tracking of it. But those guys have been impressively releasing a lot of builds too. I think I've had a new build every other night for the last 10 days. So they are also working very hard to their. Now, what's interesting about the build number on Xbox One, it's version 1608. It's not 1607, but the build number is 14393. So
yes, I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's locked in now with.
So I don't know what that difference there is, although I do know that outside of the Windows 10 box development, Xbox has already said that they have a fall update that's coming out too. So we're going to get a separate update to the Xbox console on top of what may come out next spring too. but we're not getting
so
that on the
I've seen-
desktop side.
Yeah, so I've seen with the Xbox One that again the build numbers have been in lockstep pretty much with the PC builds and the mobile builds, but so that's now locked in at 14393, and then what you see with each new update now is that the minor release version goes up a bit like with the .3 and .5 release of Windows 10. So I actually upgraded one of my VMs from Threshold 2 directly up to the Windows 10 anniversary update, and that went straight to 0.3.
Yeah,
so as we see, so it kind of downloads the latest cumulative update and applies that at the same time as the build.
I love that about Windows 10. And when I talk to people about upgrading, because I recently reset all my VMs and I set up a brand new, I set up a Windows 10 Home and Pro Fast Ring, a Windows 10 Home and Pro Current Branch, which is the version 15.11, the November update. And then I have a Windows 7 Ultimate and a Windows 8.1 Pro VM. So I can go in there and do stuff. Which, by the way, I'm yet to be automatically upgraded in my 7 or 8.1 VMs. I always like to point that out because there's been a lot of discussion about automatic upgrades to Windows 10. You know what I mean?
That, yeah.
My VMs are yet to automatically upgrade me. Now, there's been opportunity for me to push buttons. And, if you push the wrong button, you're going to get an upgrade. But that's just an aside.
Look,
so
that's just on that, though. I've got a machine here that had Windows 8 on it. And I thought, well, I'll just give it a try because I don't use the machine. So I powered it up this week. And it took me a lot of key presses and a lot of ticks and yeses and things just to get it going.
There.
Yeah, there was at least 4 or 5 steps.
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, I think just like the privacy FUD that was heavy last year, I think this whole automatic update thing. Now, don't get me wrong. Microsoft got very in your face about upgrades. And when I went on to Windows 7, it was funny to browse the Microsoft website from that VM because every Microsoft page had a blue banner across kind of below the title bar that said, hey, by the way, Windows 10, free upgrade going to end. So people who are on those OSs are getting a lot of in-their-face reminders, whether it be when they're browsing a Microsoft.com website or the Get Windows 10 app itself, or that new one that they did where when you log in, you get the full screen saying, hey, sorry to interrupt. So I think a lot of us that are constantly on Windows 10 since last year, we've kind of not seen those. And so I get the frustration level of people being reminded and those types of things, but I'm still of the mind that it took a click or step. It takes more than one click to schedule that update. And I just don't believe that the number of automatic upgrades are out there are truly quote unquote automatic upgrades. Even the lady out in California that won $10,000, I have no doubt that she probably started that upgrade somehow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Anyway.
Just going back to the point you mentioned, I know we're going to wrap up soon, but the point you mentioned on mobile, and you do get the kind of feeling that mobile is slightly behind on the terms of polish and the bugs. I also kind of get the feeling that really mobile has definitely taken a bit of a backseat with this anniversary update.
Yeah, but a lot of the features that are now, granted, you can't have inking on mobile. The security features are not available on mobile. What's the other one that they did? Cortana. So Cortana is certainly on mobile, and any platform you use Cortana on are going to sync your set. Even my Xbox One knows my notebook, so it can display those things to me. And by the way, in the Xbox One builds, since they did the release where you could turn off Cortana, I've actually found Cortana to be more reliable since that has happened compared to what she was before. And I still use it. But so I agree in a lot of ways. And, the feature set for Windows 10 Mobile that can be duplicated from the desktop experience is certainly there. They've certainly done a lot of the fit and finish things like the icons next to setting headers, all those little types of things. The Action Center there is also actionable. The Action Center there has a lot of features. There's lots of, control that you can have over what pops up in your updates and what doesn't pop in your updates. I do wish there was more. Do you remember how good the syncing was between Windows 8.1 and 8 to the other devices that run in that OS?
Yeah, something that Jason used to mention many times.
I'm not just talking about the backgrounds or the lock screen image. I'm talking about the start screen, the layout of the start screen. I would love to see that come back in a better, maybe that might be a feature that is in RS2. I don't know. But I would love to see that come back more robust. I'd love to see that have not only the ability to sync my desktop settings, what's on my taskbar, what's on my start menu, the settings I have for notifications. Because for me, my notification settings are pretty much the same on all my devices, no matter what they are, whether it's a mobile device or a desktop or a laptop. My taskbars, I lay my taskbars out the same on every device because that helps me with muscle memory. So because I move between my podcasting machine, my desktop machine, the HP Spectre, and the Surface Book. So I purposely format everything to match. So I'd love to see synchronization of what I want notifications from, or how I've set notifications up. Certain things I don't want sound from, certain things I don't want banners from. So I'd really love to see a really robust return of that syncing capability that 8.1 and 8 did so well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I miss from Windows 8 is when you set up a new device, it said, do you want to set this up as a new device, or do you want to base it on one of your other devices? And I know they did address this at one point, saying that the reason why they removed it was that different devices, for many people, different devices, different. But I would still like that. That's the beauty of Windows. Give me the option to do that.
Right. And then so, also,
I would definitely with you on that one.
Also, build in my ability to designate a device as not synced. So if I have a unique use device, let me flag that one as don't sync this like the others. But you know what? My Spectre and the Surface Book can both be formatted the same because they're similar devices. My podcasting machine and my main desktop, even though it's a dual monitor, there's no reason why they can't share settings. I just, man, that was something with 8.1 that I loved when I was reinstalling the system or resetting the system, is that you chose that backup and there was your start. Now, you still had some installing to do, but at least you had placeholders for the apps that had to be installed. And the system later on, as that developed, you didn't have to click. They would automatically download and install. So I would really love to see something like that come about for this next update. Or, if I don't even know if it's on the radar, I certainly know it's in the Feedback Hub. There's a lot of people in the Feedback Hub that want that syncing feature to be more than just the backgrounds and the lock screens.
Yeah. One thing I have noticed, and this might well have changed with the 0.5 release cumulative update for Windows 10 Mobile, but on desktop, on PC, you can actually switch now back to the release preview ring, which originally you couldn't do when they were Redstone 1 preview release. But on mobile, I couldn't seem to do that.
I'm trying to remember if now on my 0.5 podcast, I'm just looking at it right now. It now has a release preview option. Before it was just fast and slow. I've currently got all my devices enrolled in fast because I want to get the cumulative updates. But my plan is next Monday or Tuesday is I'm going to take my machines that I don't put in fast branch and I'm going to set them back to out of the program. So they're current branch because I depend upon my podcasting machine. I depend upon my main desktop. Then the Spectre and the Surface Book will become my testing devices and my little HP Stream 7, which is still chugging along with every new build of Windows 10. And establish them as my testing devices. But I don't know. I don't think it gives you. Remember, you used to have to. The warning is always if you go in here, you might have to reformat. But that's even gone now. At least in 3.9.3, you're not getting told that you might have to reformat the system. So
absolutely.
And reliability of that upgrade process, I think that's another area that Microsoft has really nailed. I mean, have I had a failure or two? Yes. But for the most part, that has been as reliable as anything, being able to either roll back if it hit an issue or use the revert feature, the go back recovery feature. Yeah.
So I think the other thing, I did actually tweet to Donna and actually say it would be really useful to have a post in the Feedback Hub. It's called the Windows Feedback Hub.
Yeah, just they call it Feedback Hub in the latest version.
Yeah, just to let insiders know when it is appropriate to switch back to the release preview or even opt out of the insider program. I think it would be useful to have a marker in the sand on that. But the other thing, which will be
for this upcoming update.
Yes.
Oh,
so for example, I'm like you, Richard. My Surface Pro 3, yes, it's on the fast ring, but once the build reached that level of quality that I'm happy with. But in terms of going forward, I would either switch to the release preview or come out of the insider program altogether. And it would be nice to have that kind of marked by Donna as this is the line in the sand. But what will be interesting, I think, all about Windows Phone.
I'll say this, Jason. I do think the 2nd of August is a good target for that date. Because
yes.
there may be what they might do to folks that are not like us and are already running it, is that when that release hits their system, it's going to install an initial cumulative update to take it to whatever point the system's at. So we're at 0.5 right now. I'm still not ruling out the possibility that they might artificially roll the build number to 14,400. But I'm not sure about that. They wouldn't answer that question for me last week. But I'm with you. I think the 2nd of August is a good line to draw in the sand, that if you've jumped ahead and you've gone ahead and gone to fast ring, well, actually it's in slow ring now, isn't it? Yep. So it is, if you've already gone to slow ring, and you've got 14393, you've got to, I think, be in the fast ring to get the cumulative updates. Are they delivering to the slow ring? They should be, I guess.
I saw Peter Bright saying that he switched to the release preview and is still seeing the cumulative updates.
Okay, so all levels, so release preview, slow, and fast. So if you don't plan to keep a device in the Insider program, if all the cumulative updates are landing in release preview, that's probably what I would set my systems to. Go back to release preview, and then release preview is fairly safe. In that you'll get early app updates, exposure to some of the early app stuff. And that's, for me, been the biggest thing, is how much, that's a whole nother note on this point where we're at, is the first party apps. The improvements in the first party apps have been tremendous as we're approaching this release too. The new feature, the Elves program is much more robust.
Yeah, Groove.
So it's a great update. It's a great update. So for me, my 2 systems that I want to stay current branch are going to go into either I'm going to pull them out of I'll probably wait until Monday or Tuesday to pull them out of the fast ring, but they're going right back to unenrolled.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what will be interesting is, I suspect, and All About Windows Phone have actually got a post about this. So it used to be that by opting into the release preview ring, you could, on a Windows Phone 8 device that was not supported for Windows 10, you would actually get Windows 10 mobile. Yeah, exactly. So and that's not possible now. So what I'm expecting to happen is that anyone that's on release preview on Threshold 2 will probably get the anniversary update down to them before the 2nd of August.
It's possible, but I'm watching a lot of stuff go back and forth right now on Twitter, and mostly it's a one-way conversation, but there's some stuff in Reddit right now that I think, because remember when Windows 10 was released for mobile back in March, there was quite the ruckus about what devices were going to get it officially. And a lot of older devices were left behind, and specifically the ones that didn't have at least the 1 gig of RAM and some other options. There was about 18 handsets that made the cut for mobile. But a lot of people were given an out, and that they could go like you just said, release preview on their phones and get 105.86 and all the cumulative updates for that, and any app updates that were released to that branch as well. So I think we're about to hit another wall. They haven't been talking about this, but they haven't been talking about mobile much at all. But it's also feasible that here very soon we could find out that, you know what, guys, that's the last Windows 10 build you're going to be able to get on those devices, 105.86. And they're not going to push the 14393 or the anniversary update down to those devices. Those devices can't get it now anyway, right? So
that's what I was saying. So on All About Windows Phone, they were saying that you could get it by opting into the preview ring, but that no longer works as of today.
I was going to say that's not working now. And so I think 105.86 is the end of the road for a lot of those devices that kind of got that workaround back in March. And so it means you're going to have to buy a new handset, which there's not a lot of choice out there. Although 640 XL was just on sale for $49 at AT&T. You can buy it. There's other options for it. Cricket had it for 60 something, and that's the XL 640. And 640 runs it pretty decent, I think. I've got it running one of the tests. I haven't updated any of my older handsets for a while, but unfortunately, there comes a time. When did those phones get released? Windows Phone 8.1 has been out for how long? Coming up on 3 years.
Yeah, it must be quite some time. Yeah.
So I mean, you're talking about 2013 when Phone 8.1 came out. So you're talking about no mobile builds tend to last that long except for Android. They never upgrade, but you know what I'm saying? So I mean, you're talking about supporting handsets that you typically, they aren't supporting them anyway. They're just giving the guys the build and they're not getting any support for it. So it's a tough situation. You feel for those guys, but when you look at the focus shift that Microsoft has done between mobile and other platforms and cross-platform stuff, they cannot continue to push builds down to those old handsets forever.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So here's my prediction here, which you can pick me up on when we record next week.
Okay.
I think at the weekend, I think Donna will announce that any Windows 10 Threshold 2 PCs that are opted into the preview ring or supported Windows 10 mobile devices in the preview ring will get Redstone 1 ahead of 2nd of August.
You think so? You believe that even a device that's in release preview, some of the handsets that weren't eligible for the Windows 10 upgrade.
Sorry, no, not the ones that aren't eligible, but the eligible. So the 950.
Eligible handsets. So everybody who got it back in March, and plus any new handsets that have been released since then, they are the ones that will get Redstone 1 or the anniversary update. And anybody that had previously gotten the Threshold 2 build through the release preview program, that's the end of the road.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I think if you opted into the release preview and are on a supported device that's currently got Threshold 2, I think Donna will announce that you will get the anniversary update early. Because I think that'd be a great way to test those upgrades ahead of the 2nd of August.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense because that is a release that's coming out on the 2nd, we know, and so you get a preview of it. So it's kind of the definition of the release preview ring. So yeah, it just makes sense.
So 14393 has not been pushed out to the phone slow ring yet, or preview ring. Or has it?
It's gone out to the slow ring.
Slow
ring, not release preview. Okay, that makes some sense. But you're still talking that are Windows 10 eligible.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Not the older stuff that just got Threshold 2 because they can get it through release preview.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it would be a great way. I mean, where are we? We're 26. So if that was announced, let's say 28th, 29th, that gives them a good 4 or 5 days of telemetry ahead of a release to the masses.
The Friday would be the 29th. Microsoft's doing their 1 hack or 1 week or whatever it's called this week. So a lot of them are they're not doing a whole lot of other stuff. So yeah, and you're right. That would push it out because I'm trying to remember with the past 2 releases. Didn't at some point, just a few days ahead of time, Gabe come out on Twitter or something like that and said, "Look, guys, you already have it." I mean, that info's out now. Since the embargo lifted yesterday, we were able to finally say that 14393 was the final build. So
yeah,
we now know that fact even before we did last year. So I guess that's a moot point. I feel for those guys on those old devices, but there comes a time that Microsoft has to draw that line. Now, Microsoft supports devices a lot longer than, let's say, Apple does in the scheme of things with their updates and OS updates, but it's a tough kind of line to draw because you'd love your enthusiasts, but it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
So that's just about time we've got for this week. So by the time this show goes out on Thursday, and then on Tuesday the update will go out for everybody. So we'll come back next week, and just as the build is being released to everybody. So we'll hold you to that prediction, Jason. I'll remember that for next week. So it was great to get you back on the show, Richard. Really do appreciate you joining us today. So where can we find you then? Where's the best place to find you and get your updates?
The absolute best place to see me and find me is at Twitter, on Twitter at WinOBS. I'm on there constantly. I kind of live on Twitter when I'm working. Of course, you'll see my content and the stuff I'm writing about at Supersite for Windows, so at winsupersite.com. But if you want to reach out to me and touch base or something like that, check me out at Twitter at WinOBS. And of course, don't forget about my own podcast, Observe Tech. I do a weekly show, talk and give about a 45-minute dump of Microsoft-related tech news and headlines and stuff like that. I did not record one this week because I was too afraid of breaking embargo. And because they simply embargoed us on stuff that was public, so I just chose to push off. So this Thursday I'll be talking more, kind of a similar discussion about the anniversary update release and some other, because there's a lot of other stuff happening with Microsoft as well. It's just amazing the pace that they are maintaining with updates and features. And today they just released a bunch of new features for Outlook and Word and Office 365 and the new Outlook.com. I mean, it is unreal the pace that they are maintaining, but they become very nimble at it. And so it's fun to watch, and it's fun to be a recipient of these new things. But there's just this little thing in the back of my head that has me kind of tweaking and wondering, oh man, is something going to go south for them? But they're doing well. Stock was at some highs today. It finished just below 57. I just checked. So, but thanks for having me on, guys. I love talking about this stuff. And so find me on Twitter and we'll talk about anything you want to talk about.
And Jason, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Database Jason. Yeah, it's been really great to catch up with you, Richard. I was so disappointed to miss you last time. So great I could come on this time.
So we'll be back next week, Tuesday, in for our recording or on the podcast on YouTube and everywhere else. I'm at IS Dixon on Twitter. So until next week, we'll see you then.
Yeah, cheerio, bye-bye.
All right, cheers. All right.